Greetings, everyone, around our beautiful mother, planet Earth, or as we sometimes say, aho, which is a greeting from indigenous people that reaches beyond tribes. And this is a very special day we have to put ourselves inside a visionary community. And this really links with last month when Jennifer and Nomo took us for a moment inside the spiritual physics of Dominant. So this is another way of entering into visionary space today. But before we go too far, I want to invite all of you to begin speaking on the chat room. But before we get too far into that, I'm going to ask Judith to begin and to set the energetic tone with a song.
Okay, thank you, sweetheart. Glad to be here today to see all your shining faces. And I'm going to sing a little song. Don't be surprised. Hey yana ho yana hey yan yan. Hey yana ho yana hey yan yan. The earth is our mother. We must take care of her. The earth is our mother. We must take care of her. Hey yana ho yana hey yan yan. Hey yana ho yana hey yan yan. Her sacred ground we walk upon. With every step we take, her sacred ground we walk upon. With every step we take. Hey yana ho yana hey yan yan. Hey yana ho yana hey yan yan. The earth is our mother. We must take care of her. Aho.
Aho. So beautiful. And I'm welcoming everybody into our circle today. Karen from Costa Rica. And we offer there, Alonzo from the UK. And Brown Dove, our wonderful friend from New Mexico, and Teresa from the Bay Area in California, and Jillian, our good friend from Boise, Idaho. So if you'll go down to the bottom of your screen, you bring your cursor down there, you'll come to the chat, and if you click on that, then you can join in participating by commenting in any way that you would like. So, to begin today, we're going to have a bookend, like a little less than a minute video. And the purpose of the video is to introduce us into vision space, and being introduced, by the way, through the spirit of the white buffalo.
The elders say we must let go of the shore. Push off into the middle of the river. Keep our eyes open and our heads above water. And celebrate. This could be a good time. This could be a good time. This could be a good time. This could be a good time.
So we want to allow ourselves to enter into the space, ushered into that visionary space, wherever you are, whatever has been on your mind, to take the journey from usual thinking into the heart as we consider visions. It occurs to many of us that we need some kind of cosmic map to help us travel in these days. And we ask ourselves the question, where can we get such a map? You know, is it in an academic setting? Is it in reading classic books? Is it in going to movies? Where can we get messages from the infinite sent to us into the finite? Well, there may be very many ways, but we have found over the past 4 decades in the Earthtribe spiritual community that if we go through a lineage and traditional and co-creative process with the web of life, that the web of life will reach out to us and send us little glimpses, hints at a map that could take us forward. So wherever you are, in Costa Rica or in the UK or in other parts of Europe or New Mexico or Idaho or wherever you are, these glimpses are also for you. And the glimpses that you get are for us. And together we can begin to forge a way forward on the bright path of awareness and consciousness. And that we together can piece this through a common wisdom, an earth wisdom, to find each other and find the way across the bridge. So in the Earthtribe, we have 3 phases of the vision quest. The first phase is people come to an encampment at the Deer Dancer Ranch where the white buffalo roams. And in the encampment, at the end of this encampment, several people, usually 8 or 10, will take a stake and drive it in the ground. And we're going to find out more about that in a few moments. Then for a full year, these vision questers, as we call them, meet with a vision guide, an elder vision guide, to build a vision circle very slowly through the months, through the seasons, until the next vision encampment, when these designated persons go out to sit in their circles, fasting for varying lengths of time, because they step out of linear time into eternal or non-local time. And it is in that transordinary state of consciousness that little postcards from eternity come through. And so we really have the beautiful possibility today of hearing just a little tidbit of some of these visions that just came through a couple of weeks ago. So they're fresh, unedited, raw, coming from the primitive. So I want to introduce first Sheila. Sheila, if you would, Dan, if you'd bring Sheila on, then we want to hear first from you and your vision quest.
Hi, everybody. I'm so honored to be here today and share just a little bit of my experience. So I was blessed to sit in my Vision Quest circle on my birthday. And that's a really rare treat. When I woke up that morning and went to say my prayers to the east to welcome the sun and welcome the day, I remembered it was my birthday. And that was a joyful remembering in that moment, because the east represents new beginnings and birth. And it was truly a new beginning for me and a new birth. And I got to feel myself really being birthed by the earth. And with both my parents now as ancestors, the earth is truly my mother. And I've been saying that for a long time, but this time I got to really feel it in a new way. And I was humbled to my knees, face down in the earth, and really could feel her energy and her blessing. And after that, I got up and really connected with the trees. So imagine a very peaceful, beautiful scene with meadows of grass, large trees. So there were primarily oak trees. There was maybe a wild chestnut or something like that, and some juniper, and a fence for animals, but there were no animals there. So it was very quiet. So kind of imagine this scene. And I was there for 2 nights and 3 days, fasting and praying and singing and chanting and drumming and remembering. So at one of these moments in time, I leaned back against this gorgeous tree and felt my connection with trees and how deep that is, all the way back to when I was in France and I was very little. So I got to really kind of experience being born again and my connection with trees. And I leaned back and I looked out and to the east, toward the east. And what I saw when I closed my eyes was a beautiful vision. And I'm happy to share it today because it feels so magical. So in this vision, I saw a red mask, and in the eyes of the mask was just clear light shining through. And then around the mask were a pair of wings. And these were big, beautiful wings like an eagle's wings. And I leaned back against the tree and raised my arms out and felt my wings being outstretched. And I prayed for healing for my shoulder, for my left shoulder, because I have a frozen shoulder. But I got to actually feel this incredible stretch of wings. And I felt born and I felt grateful in a new way. And when I opened my eyes, I looked around and said, well, what can my new eyes see? These new eyes of light. And I felt that it was so peaceful. I looked around and part of me said, there's really not much going on here. And another part of me just laughed and said, oh, yes, there is. And I got a whole download of information that I'd like to share with you today that feels so important. So even though visibly and ostensibly there wasn't much going on, it was very quiet in the woods in that time frame. What I was given was that there's hundreds of thousands of activities going on at every moment. The tree hosts thousands of life forms. Every bit of earth hosts thousands of life forms. And when we forget that, when the humans neglect or destroy even one life form, it affects everybody else in the web of life, everyone else on the chain. And that adaptation and resilience can only take life so far until the scales are tipped. And that right now we're approaching a tipping point. And we've just about reached a tipping point where destruction is outweighing creation. So that now it's crucial for all of us to embody syntropy rather than entropy. And the message that came through so clearly is that at every choice point, love and consciousness can and will make a difference. And that with every activity and every step that we make, that we are in service to the earth and her creatures. That our love, our awareness, and our gratitude is more important than we will ever know. And so I received this message for you, because even though Vision Quest is a personal thing, I was questing on behalf of the tribe. So there's a personal aspect and there's a tribal aspect. And so this message is for all of you. This is not a personal message. And I sat and I meditated, just soaking this in. And the prayer that I came up with and the meditation was that with every breath I take, I breathe in spirit and I breathe out love. So let's just do that for a moment. Let's just breathe in spirit and breathe out love. And may the winds carry our love far and wide to all living beings. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Sheila. And then Sheila came in from her quest and told a part of her story to council of elders, and out of that conversation came a tribal name. Would you like to say that?
My new name is Winged Birthing.
All right, good. Aho. Winged birthing. Oh, wow. Okay, so as we continue to breathe in spirit and breathe out love, I want to shift over to the northwest to Shannon Hay Truex. And Shannon, if you would take a few moments and connect us with your vision.
Okay. Well, first off, I want to describe my vision circle. And a year ago at Vision Encampment, I was on a hike with others along the berm that borders one side of the lake. And on the other side of the berm, down the hill, are woods. And this site really called to me. It was this sort of womb in the woods, sheltered by oak trees and yopan, and on its floor had bunch grasses and flowers, and it just drew me in, and I knew I had to return the following year, this year, and be with that place. So after I was led to my vision circle, my vision site, almost immediately, I started making friends. That is, these encounters occurred with all sorts of creatures, big and small, but especially those who are usually unseen, like little bugs and little caterpillars. There were incredible number of very intricate and beautiful caterpillars and butterflies and spiders and crickets and grasshoppers. And there were also birds who came in to visit, the cardinal and the titmouse and squirrels, and higher up above the canopy were were other birds like the pea seagull, the vulture, and egrets would fly over. So I had all of these creatures who I encountered, and I brought with me my magnifying glass. So I was able to really see if a little bug landed on me, I could look very closely and see the intricate detail of each being. And I felt very honored and privileged to be able to share in these moments. In particular, one that I'll describe is a huge caterpillar that I discovered, or it discovered me, as I was leaning in to hug an oak tree. It appeared right on the bark next to me, camouflaged with the tree, and surprised me. And so I took out my magnifying glass and I looked very closely, and I saw the pattern all along the length of its back, and it was wolf heads. The design was like little wolf heads stacked on top of each other. And as I looked more closely at this being, the wolf heads transformed into snake heads and back again. So there was this shape shifting going on as I got to know this little creature. So that happened all throughout my visit. I'd make friends with various little animals. Early on in my vision quest, I was visited by a bird, and I call this bird Unseen Bird because I never saw this bird, but I heard her song, and I remembered her song, and I'll just sing you the first verse to give you an idea of how it sounded, but it's, "Here I am, hidden from you in the trees, sending you a message." And that was the tune. And that was her verse. And there are 7 other verses, all by various encounters with various animals. So that's how my day went. I made friends. And as the day came to a close, as twilight set in, I started to hear night noises. I heard what sounded like a whole troop of large mammals marching through the woods outside my circle. And I was just a little concerned about meeting large mammals, perhaps deer, in the darkness. And so out of that concern, I thought, well, I'm going to sing some songs. So I started singing some songs, and that helped me feel more comfortable. And then about that time, I looked outside the circle, and I saw about 20 feet away what I perceived to be an egret, perhaps a cattle egret, extending its beak skyward and stretching its neck toward the sky. And I also noticed that in the sky, the stars were emerging. They were hidden in the daytime. They were emerging, and the crescent moon was showing. And the trees, they were towering, these big silhouettes. And I just realized in that moment, well, I'm safe. I'm not as alone as I thought I was. And so I started singing a song that I'd never heard before until that moment. And this song went like this. Oh, darkness, be my friend. Oh, darkness, be my friend. Oh, starlight, be my friend. Oh, starlight, be my friend. Oh, moonlight, be my friend. Oh, moonlight, be my friend. Oh, egret, be my friend. Oh, egret, egret, be my friend. O trees, comfort me. O trees, comfort me. So in the morning, when it was light out, I got up in the morning and I looked out toward where the egret had been standing the night before. And I realized in that moment that the egret, by day, was a fallen branch protruding from the grass. So, egret by night, branch by day. The unseen, the revealed, the hidden, the ever-present. I think that was my experience, what I came away with.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Shannon. And Shannon doesn't live in Texas. She lives out in state of Washington. And so thank you, Shannon, for your preparation for such a vision by coming and spending a week with us in an Earth immersion. And that kind of set the stage. And you can feel from Shannon what the immersion does and how it unveils itself. So let's shift now to Armaya. So Armaya, Vision Quester, if you would speak to us from your heart.
Hello, everyone. I think I wanted to share a chant that comes from the encampment whenever someone is needing to express and is nervous. Relax, Armaya, we're here to support you.
Relax, Armaya, we're here to support you.
I feel very grateful and honored to share a piece of my vision with you all. My vision site was underneath a big oak tree that was shaped like a hand. It had a place for me to sit at its base, and then there were 5 trunks that came up with a huge canopy that surrounded and covered my whole circle. So the first night, I found a little break in the veil of leaves where I could look out over a lake and watch the sunset. And the golden light of the sunset was so peaceful and calming. And I opened and listened with my whole body and all of my senses. And I just listened. And I noticed that the light, that golden light, was being reflected up under the canopy of leaves on the oak tree. And everything was shimmering in golden light. Even the bushes, everything was in movement. I could feel that I was in movement. I was in motion. And the next day, we had a cold front blow in from the north. And I could hear the gusts of wind blowing through the trees. And I thought about the buffalo, and especially the white buffalo. I thought about the wisdom that the buffalo has of facing into the storm, facing into the wind, and moving through it, where sometimes the cattle would go with the wind and wouldn't make it through a storm because they were actually traveling with it. So I decided to stand up when I heard those gusts of wind and face the wind and let it blow through me. And I could feel the power of the gusts, of that movement flowing through me. And at some point during my questing, my calling for a vision, I was aware that I was balancing, my sight was balancing between the winds of change and the shimmering light reflected off the lake. And the motion and the movement of being that alive, that open and listening was a part of my overall year. So when the elders gave me the name Offering Stick, I was shocked. I was kind of surprised because I had done a ceremony that I shared with them at my vision site of creating a self-offering stick that I had read about in the eco-spiritual mentoring classes. And I created a commitment, an offering stick to help show my gratitude to Spirit and to show and remember that Spirit is always moving through me. And I'm always moving through Spirit. And I recognized when I got the name that it was such a private, intimate creation for me that it really stretched me to be given that name, because it pulls me in a new way with attention of walking with myself in community. And I have so much to learn, and I am so grateful for the path that this vision and this visioning name opens for me, and that I do it in a tribe with nature, with Spirit, and there is no separation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Amaya. And I don't know if you've noticed yet, but these visions given to us today are given by people who came in from their vision site in a sequence. And that as they link together, there's a beginning map for us. And we saw in the beginning that Sheila was showing us that we breathe in Spirit and then we breathe out love. And then what happens as we begin this practice is Shannon shows us that we begin to see things, little things, big things, and especially we see an egret that's in the night and it's a stick in the day. Mm-hmm. And wow, what is this stick? How did that come into it? And then Armaya gives us this vision that in this day, in this time, we're having to walk into the wind. We got to face the wind. That's what the white buffalo, one of the messages of the white buffalo. But how can we do this? And then we remember the stick that was given in Shannon's vision, becomes a walking stick to face the wind. And our Maya is showing us that. So now we come to another part of this sequence, again, that's building us a pathway. And let's see if we can hear. We were having a little trouble with Mary Sue Daly's technology, but let's see if we can bring her in.
Okay, so I also just came in from a Vision Quest a couple of weeks ago, and I also could use a little round of Relax, Mary Sue. I'm here to support you.
Relax, Mary
Relax,
Sue.
Mary Sue.
We're here to support you.
Thank you. I had a lot of really rich experiences in the year leading up to my quest that I'll talk about a little bit first. One of which was that some being deposited on the front of my house, on the front door and the front window, a little sacred spiral made out of little dots it's still there on my door, that really got my attention. It spoke to me about being a part of the sacred spiral that we are all a part of. And throughout my preparation for this Vision Quest, I had these dreams and experiences and connections with many both real and art animals like the jaguar and bear, and I also had this really deep connection with the buffalo that Will has mentioned is living at the ranch where we Vision Quest in Wild Heart. And she came to the ranch earlier in the year last year, and I didn't really even think that much about it in the beginning, but one of the months leading up to my Vision Quest, I was driving to the monthly sweat, and I got to the second gate, and the male buffalo, who is not a white buffalo, he's a regular one, and he was blocking the gate so I couldn't get through. And so I stopped, and I had a connection with Wildheart, the white buffalo, who was pregnant at the time, where I really felt like she saw me and I saw her. Like we made eye contact, and I would sing to her, and her ears would perk up, and we would look at each other, and she allowed me to take some really beautiful photographs of her that you may have seen on our Earthtribe website. And so that in itself was a huge, rich experience, connecting with her. And one thing I want to say about that is that in this vision process, that our community and the people that hold us create a space and a thinning of the veil that allow for you, for me to be able to kind of walk closer to that and have these kind of experiences and be more open and available to it, which I don't think is possible without this kind of support. And then, so I went on to that day and had my experience with the Sweat Lodge, with the Earthtribe. And then the very next month, I came to the Sweat Lodge again, and I get to the second gate, and the male buffalo is blocking the gate again. And the Wildheart, the white buffalo, is there again, close to my car on the other side of the road. And so we have another connection where I get out of the car, and I'm on behind my car looking at her. And again, I sing to her, and we make eye contact, and I feel like we're really, really connecting. And I feel her in my heart. And then Yakaba, the male buffalo, comes away from the gate, and he gets, I mean, I'm not all that close, maybe 10 or 15 feet away from her, and my car is there too. And he gets there and he gets in between us, and he doesn't give me a threatening look, but he gives me a look, and it feels like, you know, he's just saying, you know, I'm here, and it felt a little protective of her and a little acknowledgement of me. So I really like that connection between him and us together. And then the third experience I had with them was the next month I came, and I was like already thinking, I hope they're going to be there again. You know, I'm so excited they're going to probably be there for me. And I came around the corner and I could see the gate, and they weren't there. And, you know, I was a little disappointed. But as I drove around the gate, she came running out of the bushes with her baby, like she was running to me, and I felt like, oh, look, here she comes, and she's saying, look, I had a baby, and so we had that connection too, and so that was a really rich experience. And then you know, I came to the Vision Quest encampment and went to my beautiful site, which was in one of the old deer paddocks that belonged to a beloved deer who's now an ancestor that was tamed, that was on the ranch with us, named Lightheart. And I had this beautiful tree with a low-hanging branch that I sat on most of the time. And also, one thing I just want to mention in leading up to my Vision Quest, I had some very difficult personal things to deal with that were also in my Vision Quest circle. And then, so I got out to my site, and it was such a peaceful, quiet, beautiful place, and under a big tree facing a gorgeous little meadow and a pond and lots of sounds of creatures. And mostly I just rested and was held and felt, you know, like the tree and the earth and the birds and the things were holding me. And then on the second day that I was there, I had I was just like connecting with the darkness. Early on in my preparation, I was connecting with that song by Simon and Garfunkel that many of you know about, Hello Darkness, My Old Friend. And so I was like in a place on my vision site where like everything was just irritating me. Nothing was right. Felt like nothing was happening. It was really connecting with the darkness. And so was going back and forth with that a lot. And then I just, you know, went to sleep, and I slept like for 12 hours solid on the ground in the night. Like I don't sleep that good in my comfortable, soft bed. And I just like felt like totally held by the tribe and totally held by the earth. And then in the morning, I decided that I would come in that day instead of stay another day. And I was there, and it got so quiet. I kept wanting to hear the tribe, and I couldn't hear anything. And I forgot to say that when I woke up in the morning after feeling, well, I made a spiral out of cornmeal, and in my bad mood, I felt like that's just the worst spiral I ever saw in my life. It was just crap. And then I woke up in the morning that last day, and that it was still dark, and the spiral was beautiful and just glowed in the dark. And then anyway, I just kept like anticipating coming back in, and I laid down and I was sort of asleep, and I had this vision of these, like an orange and yellow mandala, and out of it came these three ancestors. The one I could see very clearly was our beloved ancestor and elder from our tribe, Bearheart, where he, and I was observing this scene like it was me and him, and I was facing him. I couldn't see my face, and he took his hand and put his, my hair behind my ear and whispered something to me. And then I had two other things from two other ancestors that have been with me on my path on this vision quest that also whispered things to me. So I think that's my story for today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Mary Sue. So let's follow this map for a moment and see what's happening. Those of you who are listening, see if you're making the connections that I am. So in the first vision with Sheila, we have this spirit in, love out, spirit in, love out. And then with Shannon, we begin to see things, really tiny things, but especially we see the shape shifting between dark and light, and especially as the egret becomes a stick and the stick becomes an egret. And then we find out that the stick is there through our Maya to help us face into the wind and have a helping medicine stick for us to walk with into the wind. And then as we get deeper into the wind that the white buffalo takes us into, Mary Sue tells us about the darkness that Shannon hinted at. That is, hello, darkness, my old friend. And yet, Mary Sue tells us that in the darkness, she had very shaking personal news that shook her up. And tender enough maybe not to share it today, but we all know about our own personal and the great social struggles going on. And so in the darkness is this struggle. And as she said, it appears as not worth a crap, she said. And the spiral is not very good, but she wakes up and it's glowing, and we see that as we walk with the stick, we get into the glowing spiral. And what happens there? The ancestors begin to whisper in our ears. Whispering, showing us the way. And for everyone, the whispering will be different. And yet, we're all together. And so then that brings us kind of in a circle. You see, we started out saying how you prepare for a vision quest, and then you come around the circle and you go for a year of guidance, and then you actually go out and fast and sit in a circle, and then it comes back to the end of the encampment. And at the end of encampment, as you saw in the video that we begin with, there are a number of stakes on the ground. And so people are around in this ceremony, this stake ceremony. Not the kind you eat with A1 sauce, but a stake ceremony. And as we sing, and different people pick up a stake to begin their cycle of visioning. So this is a never-ending vision of circles. So if you go back and you see that Jesus was in such a vision quest, and Buddha was in a vision quest, and Muhammad was in his cave, and then there was Black Elk, and then there was Bearheart, and we stand in this grand lineage of going to what Mary Sue called where the veil is thin. And so now I want to invite two people who picked up the stake and have begun their cycle of visioning. First, we'll begin with Jennifer Knight, and that links us back to last month when Jennifer was representing the Dominuring community. So Jennifer, if you'll speak to us a few moments about the picking up of the stake.
Well, I have my stake right here. So it's become my new friend, and I meditate with it every day. I guess what I would say first is that this is a very powerful echo field that's been created, at Deer Dancer Ranch by the Earthtribe through all these vision questions over so many years. And I could feel that as soon as I arrived. But my call to go to Vision Quest for the first time this year actually started in a sweat lodge the month before, where I felt I wanted to give something back to the Earthtribe. The Earthtribe has been here for me as an anchor point for many, many years. And I go and come and have all kinds of explorations and experiences, including connecting with Damanhur. And so I wanted to give something back. And so I got a very clear message: go to Vision Quest and support. So I did. And what a beautiful and amazing experience. So I slept on the ground there in my tent for 3 wonderful nights, slept better, just like Mary Sue said, than I ever sleep in my bed. But the night before the stake ceremony, the last night, I was trying to discern whether I was called to pick up a stake, because I didn't want my ego making that decision. I wanted guidance from the wise self, from spirit, to make that decision. And so I wasn't sleeping well. And it was the first big rainstorm came that night after the sharing of the visions and the bestowing of the names, the big powerful ceremony, Saturday night. That night we were visited by the rain spirits and then by the wind spirits. So from wee hours, the wind was howling around my tent. I couldn't sleep, I couldn't get comfortable. And so I decided maybe there was a reason for this, that I needed to sit up and meditate and discern what I was going to do the next day. So I did that, and I started breathing and meditating, and it became very clear to me that yes, I needed to pick up a stake and put a stake in the ground. And I'll just say that I had been having many experiences with hawks. There was a mother hawk that had a nest in the big tall pine tree very near my tent, and I've been watching her the whole week. And yet, funny, I wasn't thinking of her as a mother hawk. I was thinking of Hawk, Falco from Damanhur, Horus, which is a big deity there, as a male. And so Hawk came to me as I was meditating, and I think, okay, but is that for me? And then I realized, Mother Hawk, this is my particular calling. The one that was calling to me was Mother Hawk. And I don't know if you can see, but I have Isis behind me here, hanging on the wall, which is something that came from my mother. She gave that to me. And of course, Isis, the wings there, she's the mother of Horus. She is a hawk. She's a mother hawk, the great goddess. And there's a connection there to Damanhur, but there was something so meaningful to have the mother hawk call to me and say, yes, put a stake in the ground. I have some things for you to learn and do over the next year. And for that to be connected to my home ground here in Texas is so meaningful to me. So it was with great, it was very moving to me the next day to be at the stake ceremony and to pick up this beautiful stake and knock it into the ground with a rock, along with 8 other people, 9 of us all together, which of course is a number of the goddess, the sacred 9. And I feel like my journey has already begun, which I know is the way it works. And I'm just very honored, feel very privileged to have a stake, to have put it in the ground, and to see what unfolds over the coming year. So thank you very much for this beautiful opportunity in this tribe. Aho.
Oh, thank you, Jennifer. Yeah. Yeah, it's so good to connect, and I'm sure people are connecting with the energy in each of these. And that brings us to to our last person to share, and the first male, besides myself, Will Turner, also representing the millennial and the iGen generation. So, Will.
Hey everyone. Well, I just want to say it's a privilege to be on this call, and I really relate to Mary Sue speaking about her encounters with the white buffalo, and how, in a way, I believe that we are always on a vision quest, and I've had the privilege over the past 6 or 7 months to travel all around the world. And one of those locations was Australia. And I did some meditation underwater at the Great Barrier Reef. And it really created a strong energy within, in terms of my connection to nature. And prior to traveling to Australia and encountering the Great Barrier Reef, I had an experience with an Aboriginal spiritual healer named Milawana. She came to Texas across the ocean, just as I had crossed the ocean to travel to Australia. And she kind of took me under her wing, and I helped accommodate her, and she taught me many things. And I remember she kept calling me the spiritual warrior, and she kept calling me her scout. And I was kind of, feeling some strong energy and arising in me as she really knows what she's talking about. And I didn't really see it in me. But the point of this is that prior to putting the stake in the ground, I felt a calling from a spiritual healer, as well as a calling from Mother Nature and the Great Barrier Reef. And I remember, just as Jennifer was saying, that night I was kind of torn. Should I put the stake in the ground or should I not? And I remember I had a dream that night, and I was sitting around the fire, and I was sitting around with all of my friends who were all around my age. And they were all looking at me, and it was really cold, and the fire was kind of dying out, and they were all looking at me, and they were very confused, and they were scared. And I remember I walked around the fire with a bowl of sage, and it seemed to calm everyone down, and I woke up. And I just remember the next morning it was cold and kind of rainy, and we were all standing around the fire prior to the ceremony. And I just knew then that I was going to put a stake in the ground. And I believe that putting the stake in the ground was just an affirmation of the vision quest that I've already been on. So anyone out there who feels an energy and a connection to Mother Earth, then you're on a vision quest right now. So,
That's good. Thank you, Will. And that links us to next month. Next month, our theme is going to be the healing power of sound. The healing power of sound. And so I'll invite you over this month to bring yourself and others who would like to experience some healing. We'll have all different kinds of sounds. We'll have the oldest sound instrument that humans have ever used. We'll have one of those, and we'll have other kinds of sounds, and we may even have a rap from Will, who knows. And so we'll have some singing. We've already had some from Shannon today, and from Judith. So that will be next month. So I also want to call your attention to the chat, where I believe Sheila has put some links. We're going to have an opportunity, people in the Texas area, to connect with Nomo, the spiritual physicist from Dominar. That'll be actually next Saturday. So I believe Sheila has a link for you to make that connection. And we'll have some other events. But the important thing today is that we take these visions. And again, I'll just go through the sequence. So in the first vision, we're learning how to breathe in spirit and out love. And then in the next vision, we're learning how to see in a particular way, a transordinary seeing between the worlds. And then we're learning how to walk into the wind as the stick from one vision becomes an offering stick in the next vision. And as we move into the wind, we then find ourselves in darkness, and we get difficult news that shakes us up personally. And we don't know what we're doing. And then we notice that the ancestors are whispering in our ears a message, even now, to you, to me. And a part of that whispering is, as Will put it and Jennifer put it, to find a stake in the ground that goes into the skin of Mother Earth, like an acupuncture needle, telling her, we are here, we are with you, we are available, we offer ourselves. And so, before Judith sings, I want us now to see this little video, less than 2 minutes, that we saw in the beginning, and now we can see it in a different way.
The elders say we must let go of the shore. Push off into the middle of the river. Keep our eyes open and our heads above water. And celebrate. This could be a good time. This could be a good time. This could be a good time. This could be a good time.
To say goodbye for today and all of this wonderful sharing that we've had, I'll just sing a little song, as you probably would guess that would happen. Dear friends, let me tell you how I feel. You have given me your riches, I love you so. I like that word riches. That says a whole lot. So there it is. Aho.
And thank you, Judith, and thank you, everybody from Costa Rica, from Europe, from state of Washington, Idaho, New York, all across the earth, we engage the riches of our visions. Aho.
Aho.